Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Hermantown Area Chamber of Commerce's conversation with Congressman Pete Stauber. Thank you so much for being here today. And we have a good handful of people that are joining us today. I see a few are still coming into our waiting room, but I'd like to begin because I know a lot of us have lots of fun, wonderful things to do with our business this afternoon. So I would like at this point to introduce our congressman. And if you are ready, I'm going to make you a host here, Pete, so you can join in.
I'm ready, if you can hear me.
I am. And I think I'll just leave this up in the background for a little bit. And then one piece of kind of housekeeping, if you will, if you are able to, and I realize not everyone is, but if you are able to mute your microphone and or phone, that would be appreciated for the quality of the call. Also, if you can shut off your video feed on your device, that's appreciated, unless, of course, you're one of our speakers. Use the chat feature to send a question to the group, the moderator. If you haven't already emailed me in advance, I do have a handful of questions that we'll ask, but also use that chat feature if something pops up during the conversation. It just tends to make for a better program for everybody. I've got some fun events coming up, and of course, I definitely want to thank our membership. We are small but mighty, I like to say. Our advocacy efforts and these online sessions are absolutely made possible because of our membership. So it is much appreciated that you are a member. If you are not a member and you'd like to consider joining, please contact me, Kim@hermantown.chamber.com. I'd love to talk with you about it. And Congressman Stauber, in addition to your wonderful remarks today, we also have Don Jackson joining us. He's the Economic Development Specialist with the Minnesota Small Business Administration. So this should be a good program, and we're excited to have you both joining us today. So without further ado, I would like to begin. Would you like me to minimize this screen, or I think, are we okay?
Well, as long as you can see me, I don't know how I look on your screen, but
in a little box.
Okay. If I'm centered in this,
people can adjust that.
We're good. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Kim, do you want me to start?
I would love for you to start. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the Hermantown Area Chamber of Commerce's presentation, a conversation with Congressman Stauber. And Pete, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Kim, and thanks for joining me today. And I think that we all understand that the small businessmen and women in our nation and in our respective communities are the engines of our economy. And we're seeing that right now. And I really appreciate, Kim, having the opportunity to have some time with your members and the small businessmen and women who make up our community. Let's just kind of that 1,000-foot overview. You know, we had the package 1, 2, and 3, the CARES package 3 was voted on. That had the Paycheck Protection Program in it. And then last week was the CARES enhancement package that had $310 billion put in for PPP, $75 billion for hospitals, $60 billion for the EIDL loans, and $25 billion for testing. And it's just like the full force of the federal government is moving forward to help all the communities across this nation try and get back to where they were prior to the pandemic. And I say this, that we're going to get through this as a nation. We're going to become more stronger, more resilient, and more self-reliant than we've ever been before. In many ways, we're forging a new path. In many ways, we're looking back as from where we were even a month ago to now. We're looking at what we did well, what we can do better. And there will be an after action once we get through this pandemic, but I have all the confidence that this nation, together, we're going to get through this and work on being able to get us back up and running. As you all know, this pandemic came to our shores through no fault of our own. but we're in this. We're going to deal with it in the most effective way we possibly can, using expert modeling and experts in so many areas, not only of the economy, but the healthcare. And we will, as we move forward, I think there's the path of keeping the community safe, and then also opening up in a very responsible way the business communities across this nation, in particular in our area. So I look forward to being part of that discussion. You know, we're looking at, there's world-class modeling going on, and risk managers and health experts that are giving elected officials across this nation the best, most truest and accurate data that they can give, so they can make good decisions. And I will just say this, that, you know, this brings me back to my police officer days. You know, those elected officials that are making decisions today, using the best information they have, the most accurate and most truthful information they have, they're making good decisions today using that data. That is better than a perfect decision 7 months from now. And so we have to trust and support those elected officials, not only at the federal level, but right down to the township level, making those decisions on behalf of us. There's going to be a time for us to review our decisions and look back and have that after action as a community, as a state, and as a nation. But right now, let's get through it using the experts that we have, not only in our country, but in the world, that can help us get through this, because we're all in it together. It's a worldwide pandemic. But specifically to the small businesses, I know it's easy, and correction, I know it's not easy going through this. My brothers and I are small business members for 30 years. And these last couple of weeks have been especially difficult in our conversations as members of the small business community. So the goal is to make sure, the PPP goal was to make sure that the employees were retained by the employer for the 8 weeks, and then when we were to open up, those employees would still be available for the employer. Some of the questions you might be asking are, is that 8 weeks, is it set in stone? I'm going to say we have to allow ourselves the flexibility to have that discussion. And I think that's exactly what is going to happen in really a nonpartisan way. So we're looking forward to see where we are in the next several weeks. And you know, I'm hoping that we can do what's best for the country and our respective communities and the small businesses across the nation, and keep our politics out of it, because we are in a pandemic, worldwide pandemic, crisis like we've never been before, at least in our lifetime. And so I want to be a part of the solution. And I know that you all want us as elected officials to do the absolute right thing with the best information. That's what we're trying to do. I think in some cases we've done pretty well. In other cases, we can do a little bit better. And I think we will be doing a little bit better as we progress through this. So I think, Kim, those are my opening statements. And I just really appreciate this opportunity to speak to the members in our community that are the movers and the shakers, and that employ our people and are so vitally important to our local economy. I think it's extremely important that we don't forget that the engine of our economy is our small businesses. And the Chamber of Commerce is, you all across the nation, you build that bridge with those businesses to help us all out. And I do want to say that the Small Business Administration, with very little support from Washington, went into this PPP program with a lot of unanswered questions, but they navigated it. They navigated through it, and with the Small Business Administration answering questions, we got through it. And I don't know if I've told you this, but the state of Minnesota was the third highest ranking use of the PPP per capita. That meant that really? our local lending institutions and our businesses that are served by those lending institutions, our community banks, did a fantastic job in stepping up, helping us. So I guess with that, Kim, we'll take some questions, have a really good discussion. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear some of the suggestions you have. But Kim, thanks for your leadership. Hermantown Chamber is well known throughout the state. You're a force to be reckoned with, and I just appreciate having this opportunity to be with you all.
Thank you so much, Congressman Stauber. That's fantastic. And third highest use in the state, that means the word has been getting out for our business owners. So that's wonderful. And again, I encourage, if you haven't applied for the PPP or the EIDL program, to do that soon. And if you need a lender, if you aren't working with somebody regularly, I mean, first of all, contact your local, the bank that you do business with. But if you need a good list of folks in our community, I'm happy to supply that for you. And I'll share my contact information in chat and at the end of today's call. I'd like to quickly introduce Don Jackson. He's the Economic Development Specialist with the Minnesota Small Business Administration. Don, it's a real treat to have you join us on this call. And I'm going to make you a co-host here so you can join us. And if you'd like to bring your video on, that would be fantastic. And say hello to our wonderful Hermantown Chamber membership, and also other business owners in the community that have joined in on this call as well. So if you could say a few words for us and let us know what the Small Business Administration is doing for our business owners. And then after that, gentlemen, I have a handful of questions that our membership has sent in. So we'll begin with that.
Well, yes, thank you. And first, I do want to also thank the small businesses and nonprofits for their critical role you play in our economy, and also Congressman Stuber and our host here. We know there are a lot of questions, so we're quickly just going to cover some of them at a high level. There have been updates from the legislation since last Friday. The lending operations, since many of you may wonder how the SBA is handling round two and what may be different. There is new guidance documents that have been issued since last Friday, and then of course the local efforts by the SBA team here in Minnesota. The entire team is working hard with our resource partners to ensure that America's small businesses and nonprofits continue to get the resources they need to get through these challenging times. In Minnesota, that is for over 530,000 small businesses and nonprofits who employ nearly half of the workforce. So we'll just give a couple quick updates here on the PPP. As we know, last Friday, Congress passed and the President did sign in the additional funding to support the small businesses and nonprofits. $30 billion of this new funding is set aside for community financial institutions with consolidated assets of less than $10 billion. Of course, yesterday, the SBA resumed accepting the PPP loan applications on behalf of eligible borrowers, so we're working on that. Nationally, we have done nearly 476,000 loans, totaling approximately $52.2 billion. Those numbers are increasing even as we speak, as the lenders are working on getting the loans approved. The smaller lenders are leading the way. A significant portion of those loans are totaling $29.1 billion, and are via our community financial institutions and the smaller federally insured banks and credit unions. Those are institutions that have less than $10 million in assets. Again, what the Congressman stated, Minnesota is the third in PPP loan dollars per capita. We realized that this didn't go far enough and we can do better, and our team is working as hard as possible with our lending community here in round two. If you do want more information concerning the PPP, that can be found online at www.sba.gov/paycheck protection. Just to give you a quick update on the PPP lending operations side, the SBA has been knowing that there's a lot of demand, and we are managing that demand to ensure access and system integrity. They've implemented initial pacing, the number of loans processed, and we are hearing that is helping run the system smoother. They've instituted a maximum dollar amount, 10% of the PPP funding authority that a lending institution will be able to originate. We are ensuring that lenders assess the PPP funds based on their asset size. We're also allowing vendors to make one-time bulk submissions. We are ensuring that the PPP continues to operate on a first-come, first-served basis so that every small business has access to the loans and to sustain their business and retain employees. Additionally, the robotic processing automation, which some banks use to mimic human data entry, has been turned off, so they are not allowed to use that anymore. We realized that the RPAs burden the processing system and diminish its capabilities. So by taking away the RPAs, the loan processing system will be more reliable, accessible, and equitable for all small businesses. Also today, to ensure the access to the PPP loan program for the smallest lenders and the smallest business customers, at 4 p.m. Eastern until 11:59 Eastern today, the system will only accept loans from lending institutions with asset sizes less than $1 billion. Please note that lending institutions with the asset size less than that $1 billion are still able to submit the PP loans outside of that time frame, but by having this reserve time frame applies, it does help these smaller lending institutions. Both the SBA and the Treasury will continue to evaluate on how to create similar reserve times again in the future. And we want to make sure that we are continuing to provide updates to the community on lending. The other thing is the new guidance documents continue to be issued. Since last Friday, there have been newly published documents. One is to how to calculate the maximum loan amount per business. There's been additions to the interim final rules focused on affiliation, eligibility, seasonal employees, and then the newest one today, which was disbursements. Agricultural producers, farmers, and ranchers are now eligible for the PPP loans with the addition of the small agricultural cooperatives and other cooperatives. And that full-time equivalent employees will determine the loan amount forgiveness. They have also updated the frequently asked sections that have been added to the SBA and Treasury websites. Okay, and wrapping up, last but not least, here in Minnesota, our entire team remains primarily focused on responding to the small businesses and lender questions. We have posted the PPP lenders on our website at sba.gov/mn and are keeping this updated, so we are specifically targeting community financial institutions. The rest of this week, our office is also hosting daily trainings. We have additional trainings focused on the SBA coronavirus relief options on tomorrow morning and Friday morning, and will also be offered in Spanish next week. This Thursday and Friday, we will also be presenting on our joint FDIC Money Smart curriculum on financial essentials and risk management. The state of Minnesota has great SBA resource partners that can help you navigate these programs. They can help small business owners prepare and understand their financial statements, as well as provide general business advice. There are 9 small business development centers that cover all corners of the state. SCORE has chapters scattered around the state with mentors ready to help. And the 3 business centers in the Twin Cities, Duluth, and Little Falls cover much of the state with programs specifically designed for women. For more information, you may follow us on social media at SBA_Minnesota or at our newsletter, www.sba.gov/updates. Please ensure you enter your zip code for up-to-date information for Minnesota. Additionally, we are adding new staff to our Minnesota office next month, and the SBA as an agency is hiring temporary employees to assist with disaster relief efforts. Such jobs will focus on legal reviews, loan closings and processing, credit analysis, general program support, and customer service. You should know that people looking to please spread the word. Our agency is fully committed to ensuring that America's workers and small businesses continue to get the resources they need to get through these challenging times. Thank you for having us here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Don. I appreciate it. Again, that's Don Jackson with the Minnesota Small Business Administration. And we do have links to the Small Business Administration on our website, hermantown.com/inunity. And you can find that right away in the menu bar there. I think we should get underway with a handful of questions, if that sounds good with you. And please, again, use the chat feature. If you're new to Zoom, just kind of scroll up to it's usually on your bottom toolbar that pops up during Zoom, or sometimes it's an up above toolbar, and there's a chat feature, and you can click in there and you can chat to people that you know in the group privately, or you can do it publicly by selecting everyone. And you can send your questions broadly in there, or you can send them directly to me privately, and I can read them confidentially for you. So, all right, without further ado, this is a question that came in yesterday, and Pete, I know you can attest to, things are changing, not just daily, but hourly. So if this is adjusted, please let us know. This question came in from a restaurateur. The May 4th date has not been moved yet, and according to the graph the governor put out this past week, it seems like the bar and restaurants are very far down the list to be opened, right before large event gatherings. So I'm wondering if you can give us any insight as to how long our inside dining operations will be shut down.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for the question. Well, you know, the governor's shelter-in-place order and his peacetime emergency order, really the ball is in his court on when the businesses will be able to, you know, be open. And as you all know, and Kim, you know this, the biggest question that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has right now is when these businesses open, how are they going to be protected from liability from somebody making the claim they contracted COVID-19 from that particular business. So they're working on that, I know, and I'm sure your members of your chamber are involved in that discussion. I think it's a good, healthy discussion. But the exact date, you know, I really can't say. I think that, you know, we just heard the governor earlier today talked about the, you know, the surge date. I mean, that's into June now, so we're just kind of waiting and seeing. But the governor has the flexibility to open, you know, in some fashion. But he and his Minnesota Department of Health and the CDC are going to come up with guidelines. So I personally don't have the specific answer as to when. I will just say that we know that the health and safety is number one priority, but there's a parallel path of opening up the economy, and opening up the economy is getting our bars and restaurants open in a fashion that we can still have good hygiene, socially distanced. But you know, I believe that when the governor does open up, I'm sure that the restaurants and the bars are gonna follow the recommendations of the CDC and Minnesota Department of Health to keep us all safe. And so I don't have that exact date, but I do know that there's been a lot of push about having the restaurants, they're responsible enough to you know, put the chairs and the dining tables in a way that they're you know, separated from one family to the next. So there's a lot of new stuff we're looking at and ideas that are coming up, and many of them are coming up from those of you who own those restaurants and small businesses and the bars and restaurants on how to do it right. So I think you have a real important impact on how the Minnesota Department of Health makes their recommendations. So don't underestimate the power of the Hermantown Chamber or the Minnesota Chamber on being part of that discussion.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And I know that we're seeing, you know, in states that didn't close down, or like Georgia comes to mind, for example, that they're definitely putting in some ways of separating the tables and different things. That was in the nightly news last night. So, and there's online on the state's website too, there's more information about opening your business and having that procedure for reopening when we're ready to do so.
And I would, Kim, if I would say, I mean, really be a part of that discussion. You know, the chamber members, they're the business experts. And so be a part of that discussion. I would really encourage you to work with the state chamber on being that voice and having that good discussion. Be a part of the solution on how you open up and what you can and can't do, because you're the experts. And I think it's important that you're a part of that equation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have a direct link to the Minnesota Chamber. So please reach out with your, if you're in one of these industries right now, we're talking about the restaurant industry, get your questions to us. And with many voices, we can accomplish a lot of things. So that is good. Here's a question about if I have to close my business and I can't pay the payroll tax or sales tax immediately because of everything that's been going on, will there be a grace period so I'm not subject to heavy fees and penalties? Has that been brought up at all? Again, the question, if I end up having to close my business because of COVID, and I can't pay payroll tax, sales tax immediately because of everything that's been going on, will there be a grace period so that I'm not subject to heavy fees and penalties?
Well, remember we talked earlier about, Kim, the flexibility, and I want to be as flexible as we possibly can in making the determinations. But Don Jackson, if you would follow up on the SBA on that, is there any talk there? And then I'm going to hand it over to my legislative director, Jeff Bishop. Don, go ahead.
At this time, sir, we have not heard anything as far as the taxes go. Again, when it deals with the state taxes, you're going to have to work with the Minnesota Department of Revenue. And then we are still trying to work through the Treasury Department and the IRS to find out what kind of new guidance will be coming down the road. Back to you, sir.
Jeff, yeah, thank you. Jeff Bishop, my legislative director. Any additional comments on that?
Sure. So this is Jeff. Under the CARES Act, it actually has a provision in there that allows employers to postpone paying their portion of the 2020 Social Security payroll taxes through the end of 2022. And then there's also another provision in there that allows employers until the end of 2021 to pay at least 50% of what is due for 2020. So there are some provisions in there that help delay portions of the payroll tax for employers to give them that cushion room.
And that's a flexibility in the Small Business Committee that prior to these votes that we asked to have from that federal level. So great question.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is about property taxes. So as much, and obviously the county is a big part of this, but we'd be curious what you're hearing about and what other states are doing. And I know county by county things are happening, but this question is again about property taxes with the deadline of May 15th fast approaching. And of course, with Governor Walz's executive order closing bars and restaurants and entertainment facilities, this particular business property taxes cost him over several $100s a day. So over the course of being closed, that's an accrued amount of almost $20,000, and the business was closed. How is one supposed to pay their property taxes if they're not allowed to operate the business? I know there's many complicated issues, and of course, as we discussed, the flexibility within our business community. But this is something that the government really needs to investigate and communicate out for us. Is it fair that I and many other business owners have to pay these taxes when the government has shut down our businesses, leaving us no way to generate income? So
yeah, that's Kim, another great question. From that federal government standpoint, those federal taxes, that deadline's been moved to July 15th. And I think that gives, hopefully we're in a better position, but remember that the county has their levy, the city has theirs, a school district, in some cases WLSSD, the DTA, they're all taxing authorities. And so you would look at that taxing authority and ask, the best question would be to them. This question would be referred to them on how or if they're going to delay or reduce or remove some taxes. I do know that in St. Louis County, it was about maybe a month and a half ago where they talked about, literally reducing the property taxes for small businesses. I think it was 25%, but they ran into some concerns on even whether it was legal or not. And I know they're still, trying to work through that, but you're exactly right. How can we expect the property taxes to be paid when we're not generating income? And when we talk about flexibility and kind of forging our own path through this together, I think it's important we recognize that how else are they going to pay that without the without that revenue coming in on a daily basis? So I think the flexibility has to be looked at all levels of government, not just the federal level, but you have the state level, you have the city level, the county level, and even the township level. So everybody really has the opportunity, and in some respects, a responsibility to look at, and at their level of government, what can we do to help out to allow us to move forward and help keep us all open. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Conversation in the chat group. This goes back to the COVID liability waiver, or the liability question about if someone were to get ill as a result of attending an event or going to dinner or something at a restaurant. Is there a case for us having a citizen signing a COVID liability waiver so we can choose, so we can go where we choose is safe and it alleviates responsibility? Is there any discussion along those lines that there could be a liability waiver type of thing?
Well, as you know, that's the biggest question for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce right now on when we open up the liability. I do know that Senator McConnell has said that any future package that he puts on the floor in the Senate is going to have liability waived specifically for COVID-19 for establishments. And Senator Schumer on the other side is adamantly opposed to that. So we'll see how that works out. So Senator McConnell wants the businesses open and what have you, but there's got to be immunity from liability for COVID. And I know that Senator McConnell is as he leads the Senate, there's going to be a good discussion on that liability. But there's already been markers placed on both sides of the aisle. Senator Schumer wants the liability waived for the small businesses, and Senator Schumer he's adamant on there's going to be no waiver. So we'll see how that plays out. But in the meantime, again, the Minnesota and U.S. Chamber and our respective local chambers have a voice in that, as what's going to be our minimum standard that we're going to put forth, and you have a voice in it along with CDC and Minnesota Department of Health.
Okay. Very good. Another question is, I'm sure you have the governor on speed dial. So just a comment to, and a couple other important people on speed dial, just to pass on some information that perhaps when the extending the stay at home needs to be given, that there could be a little bit more notice for some of these business owners and managers. The 2 days that the extension is going to happen is not enough. So again, I know that we're doing everything to be flexible here, but I know that that has definitely impacted some folks, especially I've heard in the restaurant industries, because they need about 10 days to get their orders in and get food going. But yeah, if there could potentially be more notice, forward thinking on that, so people have the opportunity to make arrangements, that would be great. Can you put a word in for us?
Yeah. So in the defense of Governor Walz, a lot of it's coming in, from all sides, and we do. I speak to the governor once a week, and he'll take our calls at any time. But the fact of the matter is, you're exactly right. To give you heads up, my understanding is tomorrow, Governor Walz is going to make a statement on the shelter at home. And I don't want to speculate at this point. I was just told that he's going to make a statement on the shelter at home. And so stay tuned to what specifically he's going to request of the citizens and the business owners of how we're going to, move forward. So I think tomorrow after his press conference, we'll know what he's thinking, and then, we'll react accordingly. So, but you're right. You need more time than just 2 days. So, and that's something that, that's something that the governor has been, we've talked to him about it, as much lead time as you can on many of these things. But in his defense, I think we have to really look at, he's forging his path for the state too. And it's kind of a path that we've all never been on, and certainly the governor hasn't. So I just want to, give him, I think, the space that he needs on these decisions, and And of course, we're going to advocate for our small businesses and, to responsibly open up as soon as it's safe to and as soon as practical. I really do believe that my relationship with the governor is very good, and I will relay this to him as well. If he doesn't, if something doesn't happen tomorrow, but certainly reach out to him, Kim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Another question that came in from this particular small business is closed at the moment, and hopes to reopen very soon. One question he'd like to know is, where do we get updates on our PPP and disaster relief loan submittals? So he's gone through the efforts of submitting them. Where do you get updates? I actually have that question too. I submitted our EIDL and haven't heard a thing. So yes, great question.
Kim, reference the EIDL loans. We did pass the $60 billion for the EIDL loans a week ago, last Friday. And for this second round of EIDL loans, they're not taking applications right now, specifically right now, and they're working on the distribution. Remember, the EIDL loan started at 10,000, and then the influx of the need for that, the Small Business Administration, with what they had left in the bank, they reduced it to $1,000, per employee. And so they're right now working that out to be able to stretch that money's out as far as it can and reach and touch as many businesses across this nation. So as of right now, for this second enhancement package, they're not taking applications into for the EIDL loans. And the PPP, you should have been given a number, a following of a number to check in with the SBA. And I'm gonna let Don Jackson, can you follow up on how they can check on the process of their PPP, please?
Certainly, sir. Just some clarification. For PPP, if you apply for that, you would work with your local lender on finding out the status of those, because they're two separate programs. The PPP is through local lenders. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL, and the Advance are the ones that are administered by the SBA. If you have, during the process of applying, you received an application number that started with a 3, you are in the queue. We're just asking for you to be patient as they process through that. At the district level, we do not have access to the disaster team's portals to look up individual application information. We can just recommend that you reach out to the 1-800-659-2955 disaster team number and ask for a status update. A couple of things that you can do to kind of, monitor things on yourself is, one is check and see if your credit has been pulled. If it's been pulled, that means a loan officer is working on it. Additionally, if your credit is frozen or you have it locked for any reason, you need to go to the credit bureaus and unlock that so that they can do that credit check. It is also important to double check your spam and clutter email folders for any email communication that comes from disaster customer service at sba.gov. That's how the SBA is going to reach out to you for communications, and any email that you receive from them will have your application processing number, usually in the subject line. So you want to make sure that those numbers match up, or you click on any links that are in there to go ahead and try to set up a account. We do want you to be aware that there are scams and frauds going on. There are some very talented scammers out there that are duplicating our emails very well. If you are in doubt, please reach out to either disaster team at that number or give us a call here at the SBA, and we'll do our best to see if we can help make sure that it is a legitimate email. The biggest thing we can just ask for right now, according to what the Congressman said there, is just to be patient. We are working this since there's no new loans being brought in at this time, so we can get this caught up.
Don, can you please give out that, I think it was the 1-800 number for checking on the status of the PPP, please?
For the EIDL, that is 1-800-659-2955.
Okay, and you're recommending going to the local lender to follow the status on the PPP then?
That is correct, sir, because the way the PP is set up, that is actually through the local lender. They should have some updated information, and the PPP is usually a faster process since it is the lender's responsibility to process the loan.
And then we found this out as well. If you have defaulted on a prior small business loan, you do not qualify.
Oh.
That is correct. The biggest thing is if you have defaulted and you have a payment plan set up, or you are working with a way to get that repaid, there may be an ability to apply in the next round. But again, if you have defaulted on a previous SBA loan, you are not eligible.
Okay, thank you. That's some very good information. A couple other questions that I have for you. The stimulus, a lot of folks have received their stimulus already, which is wonderful. I know there's a lot that are still waiting for it to come in the mail. There was, when this originally got underway in early March, and there was conversation about it, there was talk of a second stimulus going out to individuals. Is that still on the table? And if that happens, would that come out in the fall or what? But yeah, is there another stimulus in October or November coming?
So right now, being flexible, I could safely say it's being discussed. Can't guarantee that there's going to be additional stimulus at this point, but those stimulus checks went out rather quickly, and so as we go forward, we talk about having the flexibility to make decisions. That's certainly in the equation, and I don't want to, make a statement and assume anything at this point as we go forward. We are going to review and really on a daily basis to see how our economy is going, how our small business men and women are doing across the nation on these investments that we made into our community, looking at what our hospitals have done, how we can allocate, how are they getting the money, are they getting it on time, how is the testing going, the investments on some of these to some of these testing companies, and of course the idle loans, they're working through them. So we have a lot of money that we've invested, rightfully so. So let's see, we're seeing how it's benefiting and where we need some adjustments, and we will be flexible in those adjustments too. We've made several already, actually quite a few already, as we meet in a conference call every week. There's members across the nation that bring their concerns, and those same concerns we have right here in the Northland. So they're changing up really and being flexible to the needs of the people. There's no doubt about that.
Test the waters and see what's really working, and then how we can impact that moving forward. If it's working and it's beneficial, it gets reviewed again. If not, okay, thank you very much. Another question regarding essentially unemployment and getting workers back to work. We're starting to hear a little bit about that, about some workers. I think, the first wave of news was some individuals were making more revenue staying home on unemployment because of the extra $600 credit. Is that something that's going to be adjusted on down the road, or it just is what it is? And then what's tied into that is some business owners want to get their employees back to work, but some employees are refusing right now just because of, of course, they're citing safety, among other reasons. Can you comment to any of that? Yeah,
so those, as you, when the Senate first brought up the initial CARES package, they talked about, how did they come up with that number of 600? There were some that thought that wasn't enough, some that thought it was too much, some wanted more or less. And so the Senate came up with that number, and it was delivered to the House. and of course it was unanimously supported. I will say that we're hearing that some people are refusing to come back because they're making more money. Keep in mind that when a business reopens and it's eligible to reopen and in a safe way, social distancing in a responsible way, if that employee doesn't come back, then there's an opportunity to talk to Deed, call Deed, say who you are. You've asked XYZ employee to come back. It's a safe environment. And when XY employee doesn't come back, then they forfeit those benefits. It was never meant to just stay at home because you could make more. And we know the people that want to work, most people just want to work. And so we know that was kind of a sticking point. That's where we would say that, the CARES package wasn't perfect. This was one of those unintended consequences. But the fact of the matter is if you are a business that is going to open up and you're able to open up safely, the governor said your particular business is okay to do so, and you have an employee that refuses to come in, then those unemployment insurance benefits can be in jeopardy. Now, there's a backside to that too. And one of those is if you are a person with, certain immune deficiencies, or we know that diabetes is one of those conditions that could make COVID-19 even worse if you contract it. So there's a lot of, concerns on that edge too, but it certainly wasn't meant to be put in that you could, stay home and make more than what you would be working, Kim. And we're hearing that, like I said, that was one of the unintended consequences, but that number was derived in the Senate to, that's where they thought their happy medium was. And of course it was voted unanimously in the Senate. And so as we go forward, we're looking at that. I think that you have to really have, you look at the employee and see what the reason is for not coming back. Certainly if they have conditions that could be difficult if they had COVID, like asthma or diabetes. Those are some of the things that the CDC even says makes it worse. So it's not like there's a lot of gray area there right now, but that's about all I can say on that. It's difficult. Sometimes it can be tough for our business men and women.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. A comment from our chat. Pete, as you know, real estate is imperative to the nation's economy, and we need to keep things moving. Realtors need to be ensured that additional flexibility to continue to help move people through this process is continued. So big concern from our realtor.
Well, Kim, you look at it, the real estate profession, it encompasses absolutely everything. It encompasses broadband, it encompasses water, sewer, streets, roads, bridges, education, environment, economy. It is, the real estate business is extremely important. So when we look at that, we want to make sure that as we go forward, our realtors are involved in our decision making. It's extremely important. And one of the things that our realtors are really pushing, rightfully so, is that the deployment of rural broadband. We know that the FCC mapping, for instance, for rural broadband, it says 94% of Minnesota is covered by reliable high-speed broadband. That couldn't be further from the truth. And so what we need to do is work and get that rural broadband, the investment out to the communities. Right now, there's communities in northern Minnesota that they have hotspots. They use buses to come in so the students can download their homework. That's unacceptable. Wow. It's really unacceptable. And I think that we need that investment. I talked about in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee that we need to put out right now. And this is nonpartisan. Roads and bridges and rural broadband. Those are three big areas that we can improve in. And the realtors will tell you that the question that is often, and maybe the first question asked, is if it is the home that we're about to go through, is it connected? in a reliable way. And so those are issues that are really important. I held a field hearing in Scandia, Minnesota, and upstate Maine. They were the same questions, Kim, from each of those communities. I mean, we know that when we have reliable broadband, that we have the ability to connect to the world. We have the ability to bring businesses into our community. They can leave some of their areas, and I would say the metro areas, to come up and live our quality of life. And so it's important that we invest in those. And the realtors are going to be a big factor in helping us get that done.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. I know, I think our teachers are going to have a lot to say about that too, to kind of weigh in on what they've experienced with distance learning and
I will just say this, Kim. I'm going to make a statement, and I'm going to attribute it to Neil Kashkari from Minneapolis and the Federal Reserve. Neil and I were having a conversation, and Neil said at some point in this nation's history, the government made the decision that every mailbox mattered. And so we have to look at it that way. Every student matters. I mean, we know that our rural communities are connected. We need them connected to, and connection is done by the broadband, the internet. For schools, our hospitals, to keep them competitive. We look at telehealth, telemedicine. If you are not connected, you may not be able to offer that to your patients. And in this 21st century, in the technology, we have the ability to do that, in particular in rural communities in rural Minnesota. And by the way, in our nation's capital, rural Minnesota starts north of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And so we are considered a rural area, and we have a lot of bipartisan support on making sure not only rural Minnesota is connected, but rural America. And it's important that we continue to advocate. We matter as much as anybody else, no less or no more, but as much as anybody else in the investments that this nation has made in broadband to the bigger cities needs to be brought out to us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that pretty much wraps up our questions for today. I think that is everything that I have in the chat group as well. The EIDL number, the EIDL loan, the 1-800 number, that's been posted in chat. I will also share that out to our participants on the call as well. This has been great. Thank you so much, Congressman Stauber. We really appreciate your time for joining us in our households or our businesses, and taking the time for our Hermantown community. It's very important. We have folks on this call that are running small businesses that are closed or severely impacted, or some that are, because of the industry they're in, are flourishing. That's actually something that we did a poll about, so I'll be sharing the results of that in our weekly update on Friday. And so I think everybody that gathered, that took the time out of their day for this call to be a part of this conversation. And I really, truly appreciate your willingness to connect with us and talk with us. And we appreciate that link to you. And that's wonderful and very reassuring to have in the community.
Well, I will say, in closing, Kim, I will say it's a pleasure for me to be here. It's a pleasure to serve. And I've told, I think I told you all, and I want to tell you again that the number one priority for me is constituent services in our district. And we mean that. Constituent services is our number one priority. We know that the DC office will take care of itself, but back in the district, making sure that we're taken care of and you have the best representation that we can possibly have. And it's a pleasure to serve, and we are always open for you and any other chamber members with questions or ideas on how we can better legislate. So thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you to Don Jackson that joined us, Isaac Schultz for helping to coordinate, and Mr. Bishop for jumping in on the call as well with us. We have such a great community here, and we are so excited for things to be lifted. It's just nice to start to see things gradually open, and we're just getting ready to just get out there and get this economy pumping again, because it is necessary. And I think the heart of small business has been definitely heard, and we appreciate it. To that end, Congressman Stauber had mentioned earlier on about, make sure you're utilizing your chamber. I am in touch with the Minnesota Chamber every day, and we have written letters to the governor, to Tina Smith, to Amy Klobuchar, to Mary Murphy. There's so much going on. If you have an issue, something that needs to be brought up, please send it to the chamber. You can call the chamber and leave me a voicemail. I'm checking those all the time, even though I'm working remotely right now. Or you can email kim@hermantown.chamber.com. If there's an issue that wasn't addressed here today, something you think that we should have our pulse on, I want to know about it. I want to know about it from you. And I want to be able to tap into the contacts that we have to be able to get answers for our members and our community at large. So I appreciate all of our members on this call and friends of the chamber. And thank you to our speakers, and of course to Congressman Stauber for taking time out of your busy day to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.